The British faction have been introduced to Hell Let Loose, but is it any good? And was it worth the wait? Hello everyone, my name is Burning Wiki and welcome to my channel. So recently the British faction and two new maps have been introduced to Hell Let Loose, but was it worth the wait? And the answer is simple, no it was not. It is just average. How good are the British compared to the other countries already in Hell Let Loose? And the honest answer is not that good. Now let me explain before I do. If you are new to my channel and you appreciate a honest opinion, then please do subscribe. And because I wanted to give the British faction a fair review, I have put in a lot of hours playing since the update was released. So first of all, let me start by discussing the two new maps. Alamein is a great new map, but it is made for tank warfare and snipers, much like the real life battle was. The wide open spaces with the large rock formations, this map is stacked in favor of a defending army. Overall, the map is hard to play, much like, for example, Foy, which is also a hard map because of the wide open spaces. Being in a desert is nice. The map is not really pretty compared to the other maps, but I really like it. The new Driel map is a really beautiful map. It looks stunning, guys. It really is an amazing looking map, and it is a mix between Remagen and Purple Heart Lane, with the big difference that this time the river can be crossed in multiple locations, even by tanks and trucks. Unlike on Remagen, it is not a giant bottleneck, and like Purple Heart Lane, it has small canals you can walk in and use to flank the enemy. And when you drive a truck or a tank, you will notice this map is way better to drive on than any other map. Bushes seem not to be functioning as concrete blocks that stop everything, and overall, because the Netherlands is flat, it is easy to drive around, which is really nice. These two new maps are an excellent addition to Hell Let Loose. They seem to be well designed and made with intention to detail and are well balanced for both sides. Now let's move on to the new British vehicles. The Tetrach light tank is a fast little race car with an excellent viewport for the driver, one of the best I have seen thus far. But the medium Cromwell tank is by far the best new tank in Hell Let Loose. For a medium tank, that is. It is fast and agile, and it has an excellent cannon. However, the big disappointment, and I think almost everyone will agree with me, is the Firefly. The Firefly has got to be the worst heavy tank in the game. It is painfully slow. It turns slower than the Russian IS tank. It has no machine gun for the driver, making this tank a real pain in the butt for the driver. Why the Hell Let Loose team decided to go with the Firefly instead of the 100% British Churchill tank is a mystery to me. The Churchill is an instantly recognizable British tank that everyone knows and loves. It has a great anti-tank gun and has a bow machine gun for the driver. The downside is that the Churchill is slow, but then all the heavy tanks are very slow, except for the Panther, of course. However, the British scout car, the Daimler, has to be one of the best in the game. It has 20 armor penetration shells and 40 HE shells. The commander has a great viewport, and the speed and mobility are excellent. In my opinion, it would be better not to spawn in a Firefly, but instead the commander should use the resources to spawn in a lot of Cromwells and scout cars and try to overwhelm and flank the enemy heavy tanks. Now, let's discuss the British faction itself. It seems it is a bit lackluster and a really stripped down version compared to the other factions. For example, most of the classes have only 2 types of helmets and it's just 1 type of uniform. No short sleeve uniforms with shorts for the desert warfare, for example. No berets, no turbans. No effort went into making this faction a true British faction with Canadians, Indians and African soldiers and their respective uniforms. It is not truly a British army without its great diversity of man materials like uniforms and headscarves. This comes across as cutting corners on the side of the dev team in my opinion. The weapons of the British forces are well done and sounds are spot on, but the sights are really horrible. They block way too much of the screen and make it hard to aim, especially the Lee Enfield 1914 is a horrible, dreadful weapon. Why the hell Let Loose decided to add a World War I weapon, I do not know, but this weapon is really horrible. The Lee Enfield Jungle Carbine is such a much better weapon in any way, shape and form, but then the stand gun has awful sights again. Why? The weapon has a nice sound, it has a nice rate of fire, but whoever made the sights of the Hell Let Loose dev team seems to be determined to give you a horrible sight and a lack of vision. The anti-tank player is not much better off. The Piat British bazooka can be used as a mortar and shoot hundreds of meters away, which is a really nice feature if it was intended to do this, but this is where the good things and the sight is just a metal plate that is right in front of your head, totally blocking vision, and you can't even use the other sight holes to actually aim the Piat. It is all for show and not for functionality. It is a horrible weapon, and the boys anti-tank rifle has sights that are again awful, and it seems to be a British theme, having horrible sights that block a lot of real estate on your screen, because the machine gunner has the Brand gun that doesn't even have a functioning bipod, which I am pretty sure is a game bug, because you can actually see the bipod under the barrel of the Brand gun, but when you aim you immediately lose half your screen because of the horrible British design of this weapon, with the sight offset to the left and the magazine which blocks most of the screen on the right. I do not recommend using this weapon at all, and of course the bipod needs to be fixed in a future patch. Overall, I think the British faction is a bit disappointing for all the reasons mentioned above. It seems lackluster and more of a rush job to get it out to the players that have been waiting for this faction to be added. The lack of uniforms and helmets to grind for tells me no effort was put into this for either one of 2 reasons. A lack of time or willingness to spend money on making the British faction a fleshed out faction, or the Hell Let Loose dev team is going to sell us uniforms, helmets in DLC packs instead of us earning them in battle, which I guess is fine. Someone has to pay for development and Team 17 needs to earn money. Hell Let Loose is no longer a work of love, but a investment by Team 17, and this is a good example. Just compare the original 2 factions, the Germans and the Americans, to the British, and you can clearly see who was loved and who was not. And it is a bit of a shame. Team 17 could have aimed for greatness. Instead, it feels like average, like it was all "this will do" frame of mind. The British were supposed to come out in December of 2022. You took 5 extra months and still they managed to be average. Like, really? You took 5 extra months and this is what you produce. It's kind of a disappointment, I have to be honest. If I had to rate the new British faction, I would give it 6 out of 5 out of 10 points. I am not considering the new 2 maps in my grade, because you could give these 2 new maps any name you wish. They do not represent any real battlefield of World War II. They are fantasy maps, and thus the Driel map can be in the Netherlands, but it could also be in France or in Germany. The desert map, you can call it Alamein, but it is so generic, it could be any desert on any continent in the world. The lack of helmets and uniforms, the Churchill tank that is just missing, it is all a bit disappointing, and the weapons are all average. I heard some players even describe them as horrible, but I would not go that far. But very good they are not. Partly because this is historical accurate, but also partly because the sights are designed awfully by the dev team. I have seen the same kinds of weapons in other games, and they had far better sights that take up less real estate on my screen. Overall, I think the British are a fun new faction because it is new and have the new car smell. But after everyone gets used to them and you have to choose be a German or be British, I think most players will choose to be fighting as the Germans. Giving a choice as a tanker, get into a Firefly or get into a Panther, I think 99% of all players who play as a tanker will choose to play in the Panther. Because in the end, given the tank meta, you want the heavy tank. It can take a lot more punishment and it has the far better gun, doesn't it? And when it comes down to loadouts and weapons, I think the Germans win hands down again. And the same goes for the Americans. The American 76 is better than the Firefly. The Americans have more uniforms, more helmets, you can grind for, and overall the Americans have better weapons and loadouts than the British, so the Americans win over the British. The only faction that could be considered worse than the British are the Russians. It is clear to see the original Hell Let Loose dev team loved their game and spent a lot of time on details and adding helmets and uniforms, making sure you have something to grind for. And it is also very obvious that it's just a 9-to-5 job for the current dev team. No longer a work of love, just a job you get paid to do, and it's a bit of a shame. For something that took this long to make, even taking 5 extra months, and then to produce this kind of average mediocre job, I have to say I am disappointed, but this is just my opinion. Let me know in the comment section how you think about the new British factions. Like and subscribe to the channel and stay updated on everything Hell Let Loose. And thank you for watching. My name is Burning Wiki and I will see you all next time.